It gets worse every time. It's worse and worse. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, live from right about here. It's the ESG industry's only weekly woke data podcast featuring BS man Matt Moscardi. Take a bow, Matt.
I am bowing. It's audio, no one can tell.
In today's effortless spaghetti gas,
your algorithm is broken.
Called May 10th, 2023, random ESG headlines, proxy vote observations, and an incredibly nerdy ESG deep dive from Matt Moscardi, right?
Yeah,
You go deep.
It's worse than nerdy. It's boring.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, before we get started, I know we want to talk about our sponsor, S-Gage.
Our show today is being sponsored by S-Gage, your ESG data solutions provider. Or is it data?
Well, what would Paul say?
Data.
Data. All right, Paul. A clap for data. I also want to say that if you happen to be in the Portland, Maine area, June 3rd through June, 9th?
Yeah, it's about a week.
The Port Fringe Festival is featuring the Business Pants corporate theater players.
Yes.
They have 4 or 5 different shows going on. So stop in. And yesterday's show, they did earnings calls. Was fantastic.
Yeah.
Listening to a beer company earnings call while all the people were drunk. The transcript was my favorite thing of the day. So go check them out.
Go book your hotels, Airbnbs, campsites now. Do it. Just go do it now. It's it's a good weekend away if you're from Boston, New York, Mumbai, wherever you're coming from. It's a great weekend away.
But you literally need to do it now. There's already nothing left. So
it's not cheap. Do it. Ready? Random ESG headlines.
Ooh, random. We're selling our thing hard today. Random.
Aren't they all kind of random, though? Is there a structure to ESG that we've discovered?
Basically, if you're listening to this show, you've been indoctrinated into random.
Wednesday is for our nerds, for our ESG analyst nerds. Because you know what? I know you work at companies, at ESG research providers, and they don't get you together enough and discuss stories like this, but so we do.
Yeah, I mean, they ask you actively to have no fun, to talk like robots, and all you want to do is like stand around the toaster oven and figure out who melted the cheese on the inside of it and what their ESG score should be.
And why does everything smell like tuna? Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
ThredUP dual lists. Oh, you're done. ThredUP dual lists on long-term stock exchange bolstering ESG commitment. That's the headline.
Dual lists.
Yeah, so this is the long-term stock exchange, which we talked about a while back.
ThredUP is a long time ago.
ThredUP is now only one of 2 companies listed on the platform alongside Asana. Okay? Long-term stock exchange is a principles-based exchange requiring listed companies to detail and publish policies that offer stakeholders insight into how a company builds its business for the long term. It's very stakeholder-friendly, very stakeholder-centric, and there's a focus on the long term, not the short term. I don't know why they only have 2 people.
Yeah, does that mean only 2 companies care about the long term and that's it?
Yeah. And let me tell you what these 2 companies have in common, Matt.
Is it
Are you going to guess? Yeah, you're going to guess.
Young founders.
Yeah. That's
that say all sorts of things about stakeholders.
Yes.
And sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the planet.
And
that's it.
And what's the key governance feature of both companies?
Oh, let me guess. dual class shares.
Yeah, so here's the oddity of the long-term stock exchange. And if any of you are from that exchange are listening, I know you are, just reach out to us. I'd like to have this conversation. Both companies have dual-class stock structures. Both have the exact same structure, Class B shares getting 10 votes per share. So at Asana, two men control 89% of the voting power. And those two men are actually our Facebook alums, Dustin Moskovitz, who also co-founded Facebook, and Justin Rosenstein. So that's what you're getting in Asana. And at ThredUP, 6 directors control just under 50% of the actual outstanding shares, but control over 90% of the total voting power. So what kind of exchange is this, Matt?
Why wouldn't they?
What is this?
Why wouldn't they give? If they want to control, 6 directors own 49.8% of the outstanding shares. Just make the shares that they own worth 1.001 votes, and then it gets us up to 51%.
Buy a few more shares and get rid of this horrible rule. But Matt,
seriously.
So what kind of exchange is this? It's like, invest with us. You don't have a say, but you can watch us over the long term do stuff. Is that what this is?
I mean, like so we can view the long term through the lens of some companies. You know what the bet is here?
Yeah.
The bet is if you listed on the long term stock exchange, because of the requirements of the long term stock exchange, you don't need to control them because you can feel like, oh, well, they're long-term focused companies.
That's true.
Give them control. It doesn't matter. They're focused on the long term.
Yeah.
I don't buy it, but good for them.
Moving on, I have a few anti-ESG woke wars updates.
Oh.
They both apply to me.
Oh.
Which is all I care about. They both just happen to be about me, really. First, in Maine, good news and bad news. First, in the state of Maine, where Matt, you're talking about the Fringe Festival, right?
Yeah,
it's happening
Fringe.
right here in Maine. Maine legislator dismisses anti-ESG bill. They struck it down.
Oh, wow. They dismissed it. Was it the playbook legislation that we've seen everywhere else? Do you know? Like
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same thing, like banning anyone from discriminating against fossil fuels, which Maine has no companies that are involved in fossil fuels. Is that
this is just sort of a straight, like, if it smells like ESG, it's no good for anybody. Get rid of it.
No, okay. Well, they would be right about that. ESG does smell like tuna in a toaster oven in an MSCI office.
But this bill is now dead. But unfortunately, in Ohio, where I went to college, Ohio bill would ban colleges from discussing diversity and climate change.
Wow. I did see that. That feels
Welcome
like a
to
bold
Ohio.
move. It feels like a bold move. We are going to ban the discussion of an entire topic?
And here's one little more rider on this bill. It says diversity is not all the bill tackles. It also requires colleges to sever any ties with the Chinese government or Chinese schools.
Oh, really? Chinese schools?
Yeah.
They don't want a single Chinese student anymore.
Yeah. So now even more so openly, the anti-ESG movement is openly racist. I'm just pointing that out. Yeah.
I mean,
and against climate change.
I mean, okay, I guess.
Right.
I've not heard of a school other than a religious school that literally said there are topics that we are not allowed to discuss here.
Well, what we're not covering today is Governor Ron DeSantis. I don't know if you read this. He's also now preventing Chinese from buying property in the state.
I saw that. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That sounds fun.
That's it. Well, I mean, like, what if you were Chinese-born American?
Yeah, there's limitations on that too.
So now you can't own property in Florida. Welcome to
Florida.
Times.
Welcome to the land of freedom. Italian oil firm Eni faces lawsuit alleging early knowledge of climate crisis. This will be the first lawsuit of its kind in Italy.
Yeah, they already had this lawsuit in a bunch of other places.
They had a Royal Dutch Shell in the Netherlands.
That was the big one, yeah.
Credit Suisse CEO to join UBS board. What do you think about this one? I wanted to get your take on this. So Ulrich Korner, who was the CEO of the failure that was Credit Suisse, is joining the board at UBS following the deal, the $3.25 billion deal. In his role, Corner will be responsible for ensuring Credit Suisse's operational continuity, blah, 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 and that all existing Credit Suisse executive board members will report to him. So why keep the failure? What do you think about this?
He wasn't the only, in fairness to Ulrich.
Be fair.
He got the job as CEO in July of 2022.
Yeah, they've been cycling through.
They just
CEOs.
spit them out, right? Over and over again. So it's more like anyone from Credit Suisse should end up on the board of UBS is the travesty. Not this guy. This guy actually arguably had less to do with the failure of Credit Suisse.
Probably have very little to do with it.
I mean, the Credit Suisse falls because of a depositor run, right? But they have been a shit company, a shit bank from every perspective for a long time. So it can't all be him. And he came from the asset management division. He didn't even come from the banking division. It can't be his fault, right?
It could be. And as a segue to my next line of boring topics.
Okay. All right.
Norfolk Southern. They're having their annual meeting tomorrow, Matt. So we'll see if shareholders are angry or not tomorrow.
Wait,
they're voting.
Is tomorrow the no, it's not tomorrow. Oh, I think it was today. Wasn't there a congressional hearing on ESG?
Okay, you're jumping to you're ADHDing my headline there, but maybe. Yeah,
really.
In fact, we were supposed to live stream it and we completely forgot.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Before I hand it over to you, Matt, I have a few observations from recent annual meeting votes. I call these proxy observations. Why don't you play me into proxy observations? Give me something.
Ooh, you want proxy observation music?
Yeah, give me a theme.
I got you covered.
Same. Oh. That's so disappointing. We're just talking about Fortune 250 votes here. The 250 of the biggest companies in America. I just wanted to point this out to you. I was comparing two groups of shareholder proponents. The first is the anti-woke, the National Center for Public Policy Research.
Yeah, there
you
are
covered
a lot of
them
places.
recently.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 9 votes so far in 2023. Their most favorite topic is civil rights audit, right? This is the
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well, to be clear, they talk about a civil rights audit, but what they mean is discrimination against white people. That's what they mean in their civil rights audit.
That's what they mean. It's not the civil rights that I understood.
No,
it's
not
America.
the one that we all learned about.
Yes.
It's the different one.
Which you maybe will no longer be able to learn about in Ohio. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Or Florida or the Carolinas or anywhere.
So they had 9 votes so far in 2023. 7 of these are in the bottom 10 for the least amount of support. So they're not into these guys, Matt. They're not. Shareholders don't seem to be into the National Center for Public Policy Research.
That's sad for them.
Yeah. Overall, they have an average vote of 2.8%.
Oh, wait a minute. How much of that 2.8% is Strive every time?
Good question. Can I tell you what's amazing about this and why I picked this story? Is that last year, Matt, they had 13 votes up, the exact same percentage of votes. 2.8%.
Momentum is building. Momentum is building.
Actually, you're wrong. It actually has dipped 0.05%. I rounded up, but it's still
credit.
It's still 2.8%. Yeah.
Look, they have time. If we can get that up to 2.9%, the anti-woke will have something to talk about.
I wonder how Larry Fink is complicit in the fact that nobody likes them. Does he think he's part of some kind of collusion against them? Yeah,
they're voting, so maybe they're all talking about voting against them. Not that they ever voted for anything, really, ever.
Do you think that this means that BlackRock controls 97.2% of the rest of the vote? Is that
I mean, not like legally and technically, but in Philosophically, yeah, obviously.
Obviously. And sisters, the nuns, the sisters, and the brothers, the monks, are they brothers, friars, brothers, sisters,
Yeah,
brothers?
brothers and sisters, sure, okay.
They've had 7 votes so far in 2023. They have an average support of 24%. That's pretty high.
Wow.
So-
look at that.
What I'm trying to tell you is that it's better to be a nun than a racist, misogynistic jerk.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Prior to about 1 year ago,
Mm-hmm.
would anyone have called nuns woke?
Look, times are changing.
I mean, like, when I grew up, the nuns were the ones with rulers slapping your hands for, like, you know, saying stuff, wearing weird clothes, having earrings, whatever, like eating tuna fish from a toaster oven. Those are the nuns. So,
And overall, so far, 2023, only 5 shareholder votes have passed. Only 5 so far. Two of them at Wells Fargo.
All shareholder votes, only 2 have passed?
No, 5 have passed.
5 have passed. How many votes have we had out of the Fortune 250?
I think about 2 to 300.
So, listen, people.
I can look while you're talking.
The alternative democracy is a democracy only if you go vote for things. If you don't vote for things, it's not really a democracy. Because if you pass 5 proposals out of 2 plus 100 proposals, what you're saying is that what shareholders are asking for, 98% of it you don't care about and you're not going to vote for. That's a shocking number to me.
And finally, before I hand it over to you, say on pay votes, there have been no rejections so far in the 250 biggest.
Really?
No rejections.
Oh, okay. That's sad for Strive because that is the one thing that we agree on all the time. They vote against say on pay all the time.
All the time. But it hasn't had any effect.
Oh,
Matt, what do you got today? You got a deep dive?
That was really uplifting. So I'm gonna bring us back to reality with the wonkiest deep dive I've ever done on this show.
Yeah.
And it's about CME Group,
Thank
Chicago Mercantile Exchange Group.
Oh, speaking of exchanges and speaking of boring votes, yep.
So their proxy came out and their vote just happened, and their vote is turning into basically a clown car disaster on an annual basis.
My favorite
Here
kind.
is why. There are 5, no less than 5 classes of shares at CME Group. It is rare when you have 2 classes. It is rarer when you have 3 classes, but 5 is like platinum level class shares. Like that is just diamond encrusted shares. There are class B shares, but not just class B. It is B1, B2, B3, and B4 shares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not B, C, D, E? I wonder what the...
No. They didn't go with the alphabet. They went for B's 1 through 4.
I would have liked to be in that meeting. That would have been an interesting meeting to decide that.
And then you have class A. Those shares, those class B shares, are owned by actually the CME membership. So in order to work, trade on the exchange, you become a member of the exchange and you can trade. So the membership, when they IPO'd, got those shares. Class A shares is every other idiot. It's BlackRock and Damian Rollis. That's who has Class A shares.
I like it.
Class B shares entitled you to 6 Class B directors. These they can only be elected from the membership of CME exchanges. So Class B1 gets 3 directors, Class B2 gets 2 directors, Class B3 gets 1, and B4 gets to vote on them, the membership directors, basically.
Okay.
And this board has, so if you have 6 directors that are voted in by these other classes, how many directors would you say that the board has? You'd say they have... The average board has, 8 to 10 directors. So you'd say they probably have like Class A gets 4 or 5 directors and Class B gets control, right?
Yeah, it's usually about half. Yeah, a little about half and half.
So instead, CME thought it was a good idea to have 17 other directors. There are 17 Class A directors. 17.
That sounds like a very manageable board meeting.
There are 23 total people at every board meeting. And in case you're wondering, there were 6 board meetings this year, 2 special meetings for the entire year. And the directors in total, you know how much it costs to pay 23 directors on your board?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of cheeseburgers. How much does it cost?
The stink coming out of that toaster oven is exceptional at $6.5 million in director salaries every single year.
Why
they average about $270,000 each a year.
But really, I know we've described Chicago as it's like sort of the business mafia capital of the country.
We have said that,
right?
Yeah.
Do you think they're just handing out favors? Like, why are they doing this? Why would you want a board so large? I mean, does it give my question to you is that, does it give the CEO more power if the board is just a big shit show? If nothing can happen, nothing gets done, does it give the CEO even more of a voice?
So that would be my natural instinct to say, like, this is consolidating power with the CEO. This is terrible.
Right? Because it's just like, what's going on? I have no idea. What does the CEO think?
Like, not even that. Like, what time is the meeting? I'm going to turn my face off on the Zoom call, and no one would know because I'm on page 2 of the, like the panels on a Zoom call. Like when you do the gallery view, right. I'm on page 2 of the gallery. Yeah. No one knows I'm even here. So register me as attended. Here's the reality. Okay. And what got me going on this is, first of all, the ridiculousness of it. It's a 23-person board. They only managed to find 2 brown people. They have a diversity matrix.
Yeah.
Basically, they put 23 in the white column, or what? 21 in the white column and 2 in the not white column.
This is in Chicago, too. We're not talking about like Utah.
The highest influence member of this board is the CEO, Terrence Duffy, at 15% influence. Yep. Like, because there's so many people, it gets diluted. Well, here's the story.
Okay.
And let's do some. Do we have some story
music?
I'll put story music in post. Here's the story. Apparently, they've been trying to get rid of the Class B shares for nearly a decade.
Okay.
In 2014, they put up to vote to the shareholders getting rid of Class B shares, but the Class B shareholders had to vote for it, and they turned it down. Obviously.
Who put up the vote? Management?
Management put up the vote.
Is that right? Okay.
Management wanted to get rid of Class B, which is very unusual. In 2018, 4 years later, they tried again. In fact, this time, they offered the members $10 million split between them to get rid of them. They basically were willing to pay to shell out money to get rid of Class B. Yeah. Also, not approved, okay? Mm-hmm. In 2021, the board actually amended its own bylaws so that the nominating committee would select all the board members themselves. So the votes would go to the different classes, because the way the votes work is the B1 shareholders elect 3 directors themselves. They are their own class. They get their own directors. It's like a whole separate vote. But the board said, well, let's amend the bylaws and make the nominating committee of the Class A nominating committee choose all of the directors. And then at least they're picking from our directors, right?
Right.
So what happened was Class B shareholders did not like this. There are not that many of them. They did not like this at all, though. This felt like a runaround. So for the last 2 years, what they've done to get back at the board who amended the bylaws was they didn't show up to vote. And according to the charter, they require a quorum for each of the Class B shares.
Okay.
Otherwise, the existing directors just sit in their seats until they get a quorum.
Okay.
So for the last 2 years, Class B shareholders just don't show up. About 14% of them showed up this year to vote for directors. And because they don't get a quorum, then they can't elect anybody new. They can't.
Oh my God.
So they can't put in the new nominating committee's people. They just keep the old ones.
Wow.
The directors who are there are the following 6 people.
Yep.
Bill Hobart.
Yeah.
He's Class B1 nominee or
Sure
director.
is. Uh-huh.
He has 2% of the influence, 5 years of tenure. He sits on the clearinghouse committee.
Oh.
They basically gave him a nothing ball committee.
Yeah, you forgot to mention that this company has 8 committees.
8 different committees.
Yeah.
That's a lot of committees.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have 8 committees when you're effectively the size of an elementary school kindergarten class. Like,
Yeah.
it's a gigantic.
To be fair, one of the committees is who was responsible for buying bagels for the meeting.
I think that was. It was whose turn is it to clean out the toaster oven? I'll spare you all the people.
Sure.
Except for one, Elizabeth Cook. She's a class B3 director.
B3? That sounds important.
She has the 3rd highest influence on the board overall, 7%.
Huh.
She's been there for 8 years, and now they can't get rid of Liz Cook. Can't get rid of her.
Okay.
And because they can't get a quorum,
She has
she'll
tenure.
get voted out.
Mm-hmm.
She is on the audit and the compensation committee.
Okay.
The total B share influence of the B share directors is 19%.
Okay.
So they do not control the room, which means
Right.
you have, here's the situation. If Class A shareholders vote to reduce the board to a manageable size, they can't get rid of the Class B shareholders
Without quorum.
without a quorum, and they're not going to show up. So by reducing the size of the A shareholders from 17 to something manageable, they would actually increase the influence of the Class B shareholders. You would hand control to the Class B people. So they actually had to create a 23-person board just to drown out the people who will not go away.
This is sort of how the Democrats want to solve the Supreme Court problem, right? They want to add Supreme Court justices to drown out the jerks. Yeah.
And the CME blames the lack of diversity overall. They could only find 2 brown people.
I can't wait to hear this.
The membership of the CME, the Class B, there's by my total count, there's 27,000 of them possible who can get elected to the board. And that includes like someone on the mailroom floor who happens to be a member, right? Like it's like nobody's. The membership is so not diverse that the 6 people there are almost entirely white people. In fact, when you look at them, it's 5 white men and 1 white woman. That's what it is.
You know, it's Chicago.
And so they're basically saying
All
the
white
17 other people are diverse. Like there's more, the percentage of diversity would be much higher if you remove those people.
I see.
So that's the situation. I don't have any takeaway here except that it's insanity.
That's more than, when I threw this story at you, that was more than I bargained for. I didn't think you'd find this. All I can say is it's always Chicago. It's always Chicago.
We can end with "It's Always Chicago"
Right.
as our ending. That toaster oven of a human is Damian Rollis. I am full of BS. This was Woke Wednesday. It was something.
Very heavy ESG.
I mean, it's the wonkiest thing I've ever heard.
Are they going to try to ban us next? Because we talk about ESG a lot.
I hope so. Before they ban us, rate us. Send us to a friend. I don't know why people don't. Like I don't see new ratings come in.
I'll be honest, Matt. When people tell me a podcast they're listening to, I don't listen. I'm just like, don't talk to me.
Okay, well, but we're the one that you should send.
We're
to
the
somebody.
one, yeah.
We're the only one that you should send. I mean, how many other podcasts had future presidential candidates?
Thank you.
None. Tune in tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.